No problem.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I got out and did my morning walk. I walked for about actually I just started capturing logging the steps, but I walk 12,000 steps a day every day.
Oh, you doing that? What they call that monitoring? You got a little thing, little robot things that counts for you.
Yeah, but you know what?
Fitbit.
I knew that they existed, but somebody sent me this link about tracking my steps and getting paid for it.
Oh, really?
And I said,
that's always a scam. Hold on a minute. Let's do a little introduction to the audience out there as this is going out on the World Wide Web on the YouTube for now, and hopefully we'll be looking to expand into other platforms as our topics are not always YouTube friendly, and it's just a matter of time before they come at the truth again. You know how the devils be. They don't like to hear truth, but we spit truth here because we follow the creator and the ancestors guide us along that path. But this is Baba Ahnk and Baba Kwabena. We're just down here looking at it from the perspective of a modern day Kemite on the 15th. Wow, it's that long of May 2020. And we're going to look at what's going on with current events in the world from an African or Kemitic perspective, particularly here in the U.S., but also in the continent and the different countries as well as in Latin America. So hold on, we'll go. All right, brother. What was you saying? You were talking about your Fitbit and how they gonna pay you to do something, but you know this is America, so ain't nothing free. So what do you mean? Come with the scam so we can figure it out.
that's what I said to myself when I saw it. But today I did 13,500 steps, right? And so it tracks it, and then as it tracks it, it creates. There's a wallet and it places money in it. And then they have listed on the side
money or cryptos or what? What is it? What's the currency?
Well, it's the currency is whatever it's their dollar, whatever their dollar is. And then they have
so
categories.
Monopoly money, huh?
Well, they have categories where you can use their dollars and you can buy things, tangible things. So I haven't bought anything yet, but I have a balance of $68.75 since I started this, because I walk so much, right? And so I haven't gone back to look to see what that could even get me, but I mean, they have all kinds of things. I mean, they have phones, so again, I'm gonna see how it works and see if it is.
Okay, let's hold up on discussing it until you actually make a purchase and see how the transaction occur, because my screen is froze. Okay, there we're moving. Before we, to see how it fully goes. We can't analyze it yet because we haven't completed the process. But typically here in the United States or America or under capitalist conditions, typically the things that are free are actually baits for the trap to ensnare you or whatever they want other nefarious things to do to you. Ain't nothing free. It's just the bait on the trap, the cheese, whatever. But anyway, what else you got, bro?
That's about it. I hadn't followed closely. I saw the shooting yesterday, and
I wanted to talk about that. But go ahead, tell me what you think, because I did a little bit of research. But go ahead.
I didn't look closely at it initially, and then this morning when I got up, I thought, oh, there was a shooting yesterday. Let me go back and see who the shooter was and who got shot. And so when I logged into CNN this morning, they were talking about that 10 people were dead. 11 of them were African American that were shot, and there was a total of 13 that were involved in the shooting. And the shooter was a Mzungu. Of course, it's always a Mzungu, right? It's always some white boy.
Well, but it's something like that, yes.
For the most part. It's
the mass shootings, yes.
Yeah. And so
typically,
but it was all black people for the most part. I mean, 90% of them were black that were shot.
Well, I want to add to that because I have a cousin that lives in Buffalo, and so I called him up really just before we had the conversation. We're pretty close, and he's on the same wavelength as we are. Africa First, RBG, whatever you want to call it, and he lives like, I think he said a half mile or a quarter mile from the grocery store that was there, and then he's gone. He goes there regularly, knows people in the community. So this is
Wow.
his hood, basically. So I mean, I
Wow.
got like a nice connection to it, and plus he's honest. He's not gonna lie to me about this stuff anyway. We talk pretty regularly.
Mhm,
So I wanted to just ask him about it because for me, the first thing that comes to mind is false flag, right?
mhm, mhm,
Is this a false flag?
mhm.
Then the next thing comes to mind is if it's not a false flag, how is it going to be used by the power structure or the people in control to further their goals? And what's up with the little robot who did it? And so I kind of want to go into those type topics today,
Mhm,
not with and connected to the same type of energy that should be focused on Black Lives Matter type stuff. Because I saw in Milwaukee, there were like 3 people killed, Black people killed by Black people in a shooting spree, and a lot more shot. So here you have this one, little boy, Caucasian, whatever you want to call him, who goes in and shoots up the thing like Dylan Roof. And then you have the other
right.
feral Black Negroes listen to rap music controlled by other groups who are nefarious and antithetical to our interests, shooting up Blacks because of the rap songs.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
one could be very angry at the little Muzungu, as you call him, or Tuba, whatever, the little Caucasian boy for shooting up the
mhm.
Blacks. But should we also be angry at the other Black boys for shooting up the Blacks? That's the question. Because in my mind, a life is a life. So if someone gets shot, is it worse if someone Caucasian shoots them versus someone Black shoots them? Because at the end of the day, the boy's dead. But anyway, that's just the topic we'll go into as we go forward. But I
Mhm,
wanted to
mhm.
just talk a little bit about it and get your ideas. I'll just give
Okay.
us some facts. The boy supposedly had a manifesto that he wrote. It was pretty long. I think it's like 140 pages or something to that
Wow.
effect.
That's
Yeah,
that's
it's
pretty long.
no pretty substantial. So that
Yeah.
automatically raises red flags, in my
Mhm,
opinion. He went on, I think it was 4chan or either 8chan, one of those little websites, and he got radicalized for that. And he was live streaming it.
yeah. He had a camera on his hat or something, right? He had a hat on
Yeah, they
or
have those
on his
GoPro
head
type
or
things they
bed.
can put those cameras on. No, and they've scrubbed, from what I've heard. I didn't really do a real hard search, but according to my cousin, they pretty much scrubbed that. It's hard to find. So if someone's
Mhm,
out there that has a connection to that, I would like to see the camera footage. But pertinent part, he started shooting. He went to the supposedly the manifesto said that typical ideology for the white supremacists. They want to kill the mud peoples, the Black people, and that we're trying to take over. Then he talked about Jews, of course, which is not insubstantial, but that's another topic. And so he
mhm,
gets out of his car. He wanted to go he lives out in the rural area somewhere near Buffalo, but he wanted to go to a place where there was a high density of Blacks. So he went in downtown Buffalo. And I don't know if he's in a militia group or not. My cousin was telling me that he came from outside the city, went into Buffalo, parked at the grocery store, got out, started shooting people. And there was a retired security guard there who was with the Buffalo Police Department who actually shot at him through the window before he came into the store, and that he hit the boy, but because the boy had on body armor, he was able to survive the shot. Then he came on in and executed the police officer, the retired Black man who was protecting the store or trying to. And then after he did that, I
mhm,
guess he went on his little binge of shooting people, and apparently people died. He said, my cousin saying those people actually who died. So
mhm.
it did occur. Um, did it occur the way they said? I don't know. But then supposedly there was, I guess, like a hostage situation where the little boy was stuck in the store and he was going to kill himself, but they talked him down and told him to take off his life vest or his anti-armor stuff. And then finally they, put him in jail, and here we are. So
Mm,
I think 11
okay.
people dead or something to that effect. But then at the same time, almost the same time over in Milwaukee, there was a bunch of parties or the like, and over the weekend, and 3 separate incidents or whatever, there were at least 3 people shot, black people, by young black males. So I find that very interesting to be
Okay.
juxtaposed to these events current. But go ahead, what are your thoughts?
So no, I didn't know. I had heard a glimpse about Milwaukee, but I didn't know what it was. I just overheard a shooting, and that was pretty much it. Because the little bit of it knowledge I got gained about the Buffalo incident was what I woke up to this morning. Again, I heard a glimpse of it yesterday, didn't really pay it any attention. Then this morning when I got up and it popped up, I said, "Oh, let me see what really happened and who the people were and who the shooter was," and because they were still talking about it. So I don't really, and I heard that there was a manifesto. I haven't looked at it, and then I didn't know. Again, I didn't look at it in great detail because when I get up in the morning, my routine is my meditation, and then I go out and do my walk to get that out of the way at the front part of my day because stuff happens throughout the day and will throw me off, and I won't get those things done. And so the goal was to come back and kind of look at it a little closer, which I hadn't had an opportunity to do so. But I did see the video that I sent you from Madam President. That's her handle. I don't know if you know who she is, but she hangs in the circle with Vicky Dillard. She's a part of the Fly Nubian Queen Network with Bryce, Dr.
Boyce,
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 yeah, Boyce,
Moist Boyce.
yeah, Boyce. And so, and that whole crew, and so, so when I saw her video clip, that's what I forwarded on to you after I'd watched it.
I have to. You send it on WhatsApp?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is this the lady of Madam President? Oh yeah. I started watching. I didn't get all the way through it though. It was on Instagram, and I don't have an Instagram account, but I didn't get all the way. I just talk a little bit about it. Okay, so you watched hers though, right?
Yeah, I watched hers.
Okay, give me your 2 cents about hers, or 5 cents, whatever you
got. I mean, I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into it. I mean, her point was we've got to talk about this problem that we have in America with disregard for Black people from white people. And granted, to your point, the Black on Black crime is apparent. It's a real reality, right? And we don't talk about that. The causes of the 2 different scenarios, though, I mean, the root causes are different, right? For sure.
Are they different?
Certainly, because it's though it is, and you, to your point, it is a human scenario, but it's the perspective that one happens versus the other. With Black people, a lot of what happens with us as Black people was it was created again by Mzungu. Mzungu is the root of everything that causes these issues from the natural perspective. And I know with reincarnation and African spiritual science, we reincarnate, we choose where what family we're born in, we choose all these different scenarios in our lives. But so there's a couple of different perspectives I guess you could look at it from, if you're coming from an African science perspective versus coming from a non-African science perspective, which most of the world comes from the non, right, versus the African spiritual perspective. But so I don't know. I mean, I see them as different. Just because of the lesser melanated versus the heavier melanated.
All right, melanin.
and this the intent behind it is a little different, if you're talking militia. I mean, because we know that white people have hated, a number of white people have hated Black people. And I think I sent you a video a couple of weeks ago of a doctor who was teaching on racism and how deeply embedded the cause of slavery still is today in the lives of Black people, but how it not only impacted the Black people, but it impacted the colonizer too.
You talking
That's
about
never
the
not.
Joy DeGruy, the Joy DeGruy thing? Not Dr. Joy DeGruy, huh? Post-traumatic slave syndrome. It
Yes,
wasn't that
yes,
one.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's very
yes.
important. I mean, that's something that we need to study. And no one
Yeah,
talks about
and
it.
we do, and nobody talks about it. I mean, of course, her sharing about. I never thought about it either until from the slave owner perspective and how that impacted the slave owner. And I which it makes sense. I knew about how slavery impacted us as Black people and how we've carried it from generation to generation. The trauma is in us because of the DNA and because we're still living in this oppressive kind of society because of the ruling class. But I never thought about the ruling class and what they're carrying forward, though they're always quick to dismiss. That was my ancestors, that's not me, that were slave owners. But it's my money you have as a result of slavery. So they always separate that, right? It has nothing to do with them. It's not their fault. They have their white privilege. They have what they've inherited from what their ancestors did in the slavery, having free labor to build their wealth, but they don't see that that's relevant. They don't see that they are being complicit to that because they've not done anything to right that wrong because they don't see a problem with it.
Well,
right?
I think in analyzing it from what you said globally is good, but I think we have to get into more details of actually what happened for the majority of people classified as whites or Caucasian, as well as the system of capitalism and debt and usury. I think, and the roles that people played in this enterprise called slavery system. Well, first of all, we have to look at what Dr. Francis Criswellson said about the system of racism, white supremacy, and how if you don't understand that, what it is and how it operates, okay, that's Neely Fuller, then everything else will confuse you. And I agree with what Neely Fuller said and Dr. Francis Criswellson because they work together, because if you don't look at race in America, you don't understand what's really going on. But in addition to that, I think you have to look at the economic system, the money, how the money works, because the money is the primary means of exchange with people and the environment. So if you control, if one controls the money, one can control other things. So racism to me is just another tool used by the masters, the people in power, to maintain their control. The majority of white people, people classified as white, don't have anything but the feeling of whiteness, that they're better than the Black people or the dark-skinned people because they're Caucasian. I mean, look at the Mexicans, all the groups that immigrate here, they're so quick to put on their paperwork that they're white. So that's a status thing. Do they get money for that? No, but they do get a better a feeling of superiority.
Right.
And so they're placated with getting, their ass kicked too, like everybody else, like what's going on economically. But at least they're not Black, and there's been some things talking about how there's poor people, white Caucasians, that they're asked how they feel vis-a-vis another Black person. Even this person may have a PhD or a lot of money, whatever, if they would trade places with them. And they would not trade places. They'd rather be poor and stuck and having the label of white than to be rich and having the label of Black. That's how pathological this whole thing is. So I think you have to look at the race thing, and you got to look at the money thing, and then also there's a whole thing about genetics, because if you can't get the dominant from the recessive. Clearly, African Black people are dominant genetically. And people who are mutants with non-melanated skin are recessive, and they feel some kind of way about it. So they've instituted a system of violence called racism, white supremacy. But on top of that, you also have the money system, which was affected by the European colonial project of expansion and control of the world. So those two came together on the banking and colonialism, and that's kind of what rules the world today. So you got a few who sit at the top with all the money and control, and there's jockeying positions. It's an oligarchical system. We'll go into that later. But then you have the majority who serve as confederates, who are willing to beat down their lesser melanated people to get this whiteness and not be as exploited and maintain the system. So they're really like the majority of people we classify as white are useful idiots. They're dupes. They get a few crumbs, but they don't get near the wealth that the others do. Just like you have Negroes who participate, boule, whatever you want to call them. They're dupes. They're useful idiots. And I think at this time, as we move into new consciousness, people are waking up. But we as Black people, as to your point about Dr. Joy DeGruy, this racism thing poisons us also. We can't be so poisoned not to understand and to differentiate the groups that are against us and for us. So what I'm trying to say is that the Panthers used to march with the KKK or some white supremacist group back in Las Vegas in order, they allied with them during strikes. They shut down the strips in order to take care of the people there who were working in the unions. So we just can't be stuck on this white versus Black dynamic. We have to go more into fidelity and actually understand what's going on, who's controlling, what's happening. We just can't paint a broad brush because they'll say, oh, Blacks are the problem or whites are the problem. Well, as we discussed, you got the problem in Buffalo. Ostensibly, some white supremacists, they say, because we can't trust them because they're liars, went in and shot a bunch of Black folks.
Right.
Was he a wind-up toy? Was he an agent of what they call that? Was he mind control? Was he on SSRIs? Because I got a son right now I'm dealing with who's psychologically driving me nuts, bruh. And we can talk about this offline, but I had to ban him from my house. And who knows what they can do with these little wind-up toys that they call these youth, because they're all messed up with these video games and schools and all kinds of things. You can motivate these people to do things that may or may not they are aware of. Then you got the other boys out in Milwaukee, and I'm sure it happens all over, where they'll go by and shoot other Blacks. So are we supposed to be so simple of mind to say, oh, it's the whites, or can we say it's the Blacks, or it's the rap music? Who controls the rap music? So I don't want to just stop and say, oh, this white supremacist. Oh, I'm scared. Oh, we got to do this. Well, it's still to what I'm trying to get to is that it's the same fundamental problem. It's even though it manifests in different ways. The movers, or I should say the ones who are making and causing this to occur, are the same people for both events. So that's all I wanted. That's the point I want to get across. But go ahead.
Okay. That makes sense. I'm there with you on that. The one who causes it, I mean, yeah, I guess that, in essence, that's the one who causes it. They're the problem, right? For both groups, for both scenarios.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense. Wow.
See, and what's going on now with a lot of so-called white people, Urugus or Mzungu, whatever you want to call them, they're not part of the ruling class. They're middle class people, hired help, so to speak. They're useful idiots. But like I said, they feel like they're white, so they feel like they got a stake in it. But that's the system of the bankers who actually run the show. When they were running this project, started out with capitalism, mercantilism, and all that stuff with their expansion. And what they decided to do is that instead of having slavery for just a few colored people, whatever they want to call them, why not enslave everybody, whites included, or people classified as white also? And it would be way more profitable and much larger. And we'll call them the middle class, and we'll just put them in debt. And then they have to pay us back their mortgage. They have to pay us back school loans. They have to pay us for everything. and they'll be in slavery, and we don't have to take care of them like we had to take care of those darkies or other people that we had underneath our particular control. Notwithstanding, and I hear the arguments of so many other people who are melanated, who call themselves indigenous, that they were never slaves, that black means dead, and all these other things that they say. Okay, that's a topic for a different day. But melanated people who are here, who are in the system, whether you're indigenous or not, you still fall under it. And at the end of the day, we have to figure out and see what's going on and not get caught up in the weeds, because the controllers actually imposed the European project on their own people too, because they were the first slaves. Got to remember, the first indentured servants for the Europeans were Europeans, the poor ones. So it's always been a stratification and exploitation. It's just that during Baker's Rebellion and the project in Virginia, which is interesting, or prior to that, they started differentiating people according to color of skin or amount of melanin in their bodies or skin expressed in their bodies. So they were able to divide and rule us. But I think that time is ending, because the bank project, because of its exponential growth and usury, is causing everyone to suffer. Look what's going on. The economic system is ready to collapse. You know, you can't find food. I was looking when they were saying that diesel fuel is the scarcest it's been since, you know, ever on the East Coast. Food prices are going through the roof. I know they are for me when I go and buy stuff. And then look at fuel. Look at the fuel price. You think the fuel price is just focused on black people or the food, whatever?
Right. Yeah. And some of it, though, I think they're using hyperbole to, again, because you can't trust what they say, right? You can't trust what they say, you can't trust what they do. So how much of what they're perpetuating is really true?
Well, one thing we don't know for sure, they're lying. That's the only thing we can agree upon for sure.
We know for sure, right? Right.
They're on TV, they're given a platform in the mass media, whatever. They're liars, or they're lying, or whatever. And they have all of them.
Right, and they have an agenda, and they've got a playbook they're working from.
Right,
and we're all just pawns in their on their monopoly board.
In their minds.
Right. And so, but I tell you, this African spiritual science stuff is just, it's amazing to me. And the more that I learn and the more that I understand it and how it works, I mean, that it's the answer. It's the answer to it all. But it's like so many people don't know. They're so clueless about it, right?
Well, yeah, African spirituality is definitely the savior for really all peoples, even the so-called Euro people. They are having their Muslim or Christian type thing. The Abrahamic religion deception is what I call it. So even though I got my good brothers I love who are Muslims and Christians who I love, and even the Black Hebrew Israelites, I like them too. I mean, they're good people. I like talking to them. But ultimately, they can't reach the level of spirituality that is available to them.
That is available
on the planet from the Creator. They can they purposefully choose to stay within the pen, even though the pen gate is now open to walk out freely and explore the Creator under the African spiritual science paradigm, which, you know, it was all around the world. It's called animism or paganism or whatever. When you actually go into it, it's actually very scientific and exact, and it was spoken in a codal form to allow it to be maintained. It was only when there were the scientists who were around could go into it now, the myths or whatever that are called, and break them or understand that it's actually physical scientific principles, because that's what we study. Study science and physical principles, scientific principles in the form of Right. And metaphysics. It's metaphysics.
Mhm.
It's not this,
Mhm.
oh, spirit worship. I'm worshiping a tree. No,
Right,
that's too
right,
simplistic. Now, it may have
right.
been propagated through that, but
Mhm.
you got to remember too that when information breaks down or societies break down, you want to maintain the information at all costs. That's the most important thing.
Mhm.
Interpretation uh, can be done later. And just like once again, the metaphor of Ausar, the Ausarian Metaphorein, the information was broken down and Ausar was cut into 14 pieces and
Mhm.
scattered around the world. That's kind of what happened with African people and people overall. The information has
Mhm.
been put in pieces and spread around the world. Now is the time for us to bring it back together, and through discernment, these so-called spiritual practices or what they call a superstition, whatever, you can look at it from the point of view of science and see this actually science and it's useful and actionable for now. Look at what the Haitians done. They did the same
Mhm.
thing when they were successful in their Haitian revolution. But that's another story why, the Europeans went after them, even though they defeated all the European armies,
Right.
Spain, French, and even the British. But then internal problems arose and they weren't able to, and sabotage and sellouts, which are the biggest enemy, which hasn't allowed them to be successful, but it's changing now.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
why I want to talk about this shooting thing, because I think they tie in there, because it's about the money, it's about the
Yeah.
killing. Black Lives Matter. I don't know if you saw where they're heating this chick up hot, the one Colors or whatever, the lesbian
Yeah.
Budweiser.
Colors. Yep. Yep. Did you see the video she put out a couple
No,
of
I
days ago?
didn't.
She put out Candace Owens.
Yeah, I heard she went
You
to
know,
her front door.
she went to her front door.
Yeah. Actually, they said she was on the street. She didn't even get in. This
But
chick
right,
who supposed
she got
Black
to the
Lives
gate.
Matter
She
got a
couldn't get through
gate
the
and
gate.
a gate and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
policeman at the door.
Right. And so Patrice Colors or got on Instagram crying, bawling
Mm,
about how Candace rolled up on her and wouldn't leave her
wow.
house, was demanding answers from her. And she was so she's pleading to Black people to support her, right?
Wow.
And
And
she
she the
went
$6
on and
million house in California.
right, exactly,
With her little
and
lesbian friend from
she's under
Canada.
investigation, right? And under investigation for for fraud and
She'll get away
and
with it. They're just bringing that
so
up.
yeah, and she probably will, because I mean I think because the money that was really funneled into it came from Jeff Bezos, I think, didn't it?
Well, it came from a variety of people, and it was tied to the Democratic Party. When you made a check to it, it
Yeah.
went to ultimately the Democratic Party, then to them. So
Okay.
the Democratic Party is heavily involved in this money laundering type thing. So they
Mhm.
won't go after her too much. They'll make a big stink, but they're gonna let it die down because they don't want the look underneath the covers and see all the roaches and the like underneath the covers. So they won't do all
Right.
that. Stains on the
Right.
sheets and
Right.
whatever
Right.
piles. Ooh, they get real nasty with it if we want to, but I'll stop. That's enough.
So while she's recording this, Candace Owens is looking at the recording live.
Really?
And then she records herself looking at Patrice Colors' live
Sound like a song.
broadcast.
Watching you, watching me.
Right. And then she's broadcasting live while she's doing it.
Wow.
And saying, "Can you believe this chick? Can you believe her?" And so I mean, it was hilarious. Hilarious, right? And it's like, it's just amazing that whole scenario was playing out like that, right? But to the point of Candace Owens, she was doing investigative reporting and trying to get answers, right? But she also said that they didn't do all the things that Patrice said that they were doing at her house. She said she had security at her house. We couldn't go. We could only go so far. We couldn't go to her door.
And she had a Caucasian guy as a security guard in the front who
Right.
had
And
his camera on her, she said.
Right. And she said, she's all about Black Lives Matter. This is Candace. She's all about Black Lives Matter. then why does she live in the middle of a white neighborhood? Why does she have a white police officer guarding her door? She's all about Black Lives Matter. Why aren't she in a black neighborhood? Why don't you have a black policeman? I mean, this is America, right? At its finest.
And that's what I'm saying. It goes back to the same banker controlled economic system that keeps people fighting amongst themselves, because it's the differences in the fights that allows the people who are at the top to basically extract wealth from all. And then, you know, these people are like colors, and even to her point, even Candace Owens, she's part of it, right?
Yeah,
I
she's
mean,
a part of it, right?
yeah,
They all
she's
have their
part of it
role, right?
too. They all have their role. And once again, we're talking about it. So it brings up dissension and focuses on them and not at the people who threw the rock, hit everybody in the head, and now they hide their hand and say, "Ooh, boy, you got hit in the head, didn't you?" It came from
That was
over
a
there.
big rock that hit you. I only threw a pebble.
It came from over there by Candace. Then they tell him Patrice,
Right.
oh, it came from over there by, you know, they're telling Candace, oh, it came over there from Patrice, you know, and then they're sitting in the back laughing, you know.
Right.
Like they used to talk
Right.
about in South Clan, the hats, the small hats would sell the ropes and sell the sticks to fight, let people start fighting and sit back and laugh and you know, make money off both sides. But then you got different levels. But anyway, it's just the bankers. And I think ultimately it goes down to this thing of making people, I'm getting real deep on you, making people suffer because we have an alien, not alien, but spiritual evil entity that profits off of and harvests human suffering. People call it the devil. People call it the John. Some people say it's aliens, but I'm convinced that there's an entity that's always been on this planet who some people actually pray to, just like we pray to and connect to our ancestors. These people connect to these demon spirit beings who actually exist, who are they're trying to pawn off as aliens now, who actually benefit, feed off, get high off human suffering. So basically our emotions and fear and whatever is like crack to them and they love it. So you have different levels of people who function in this materialist perspective, who basically feed the crackheads, or I should say the emotional crackhead feeders, the demons that are always there. And they fear us, but they want us to fear them. And that's why the Abrahamic religions are a problem, because we're scared of the devil, scared of demons. No, it's not to be feared, to be recognized, laughed at, and their minions, bankers, and other folks who push and propagate a inhuman system that allows for some foolish, confused boy to walk into a superstore, a grocery store, and shoot up a bunch of people, that allows for these young Negroes to shoot up their brothers and sisters in the neighborhoods. Those are the people who we need to focus on and to change the system. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, to bring it full from the what they call that, the contemporary to actual spiritual stuff. That's how I see everything. You can't see it, in my view, and understand it unless you look at it from that perspective. Otherwise, you get confused.
Right.
Comments on that? I know I went deep on you.
Yeah, you did, but it's all good. It's all good. It's making me think outside of my own way of thinking, and so which is good, right? And I'm also thinking about, you know, we've got an election coming up, and you know Biden's numbers are not looking good, so they're trying to figure out how to engage Black people again, because a number of us have stepped off. A number more of us have stepped off the Democratic Party, and realizing that it's not really benefiting anything for us as a Black people. So I wouldn't be surprised if that Biden had said some things about the shooting and how appalled he was. But that's just how it is, right? That's what they always do. They always jump on the bandwagon when they could prevent some of this stuff, but they never do. They never. And then it's like, how much of it could they prevent, because they're not really running the show anyway.
Well, I think they know the script to a certain degree. I think they can pull some levers here and there. I mean, they're not the ultimate power people, but you know, they
Yeah.
have the FBI has that those programs whereby I know in Michigan and other places, they have these confidential informers who they can engage and encourage to try and do nefarious type events. So I don't know if this boy was part of that. I don't know. But one thing is for sure, they're going to try and benefit from it. The Democratic Party and scare the Negroes to vote for them, which will be the worst thing to do because, you know, they're the same. Actually, you know, in terms of topics and politics, I prefer Republicans to Democrats at this point for overall. Now, of course, a lot of them are the same. And they're basically bedfellows. Like some people think about Trump. Well, Trump is just hired help. He's the one pushing this shot thing, saying everybody should get it. He's the king of it. Well, you know, if you really study it, I'm not going to go too deep into that. But if you really look at that, you can come to different conclusions. So, I mean, you got to look at what the people do and not what they say. So, to your point, the Democrats, Biden, weekend at Biden's, they're going to try and prop him up to get, I guess, something into the second half of his term. But it's all about thievery and stealing money. Like they're sending, what is it, another 40 billion over to Ukraine? It's going to go in the front door and out the back.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And look what 40 billion could do here. What 40 billion could do in the US. I mean, that's what is it? A billion is 1,000 millions. So that's $40,000 million. What could that do in communities around the country to help homelessness, to help all kinds of things? That's just part of it.
Right. So they got reparations they could be paying.
Well, they ain't gonna pay you Negroes nothing. Yeah,
you know, and you're right. You know, there's a new movement on reparations. This guy hit me up on Facebook, and he's a doctor of something, I forget what, but I'm in a group, and this group is a group that's about Africa, and he posted the comment directly to me in the group, and I'm like, well, why would he post it to me? So I went and looked, and he was talking about jumping on the bandwagon for this reparations thing he's working on, and that he's representing 40 million descendants of slaves, so he's representing me. I'm like, dude, I don't even know who you are. How are you representing me? So anyway, there's some, and so but he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't let it go. I finally had to I just got out of the group because I'm like, I'm not engaging this guy because he thinks he's trying to tell me something. Then he insulted me and told me he knows that I don't understand how reparations work. I'm like, well, you trying to engage me and then you're going to insult me?
Well, and it hasn't been paid. So how can you say how it works? It hasn't been executed. I mean, you got reparations for other people. So that right there is a false statement, right?
Exactly. And of course, reparations for us have been talked about for years.
Right. Since the Civil War. Really?
Yeah.
Since the Civil War.
And nothing has moved, right? Nothing has moved. No one has considered
it ain't going to move. It's not going to move.
And so what I posted was, I said, well, sir, I'm not interested in, I said, if that works out for you, good for you. I'm focused on Africa. I'm doing, and so somebody saw my comment, and they reached out and they said, a sister, she said, well, I would like to hear more of what you're planning. She said, I'm trying to do some stuff myself, but I'm kind of at I don't know what direction to move in. So I kind of laid out some things that I'm doing and posted it back to the group so she would know. And so then he jumps into that. I'm like, why are you all up in my business?
He's just a sweater. He's sweating you, man. Tell him it ain't the fall. It ain't winter time. You don't need no sweaters.
Right. So finally I said, sir, you do you and I'll do me. And let's leave it alone. I said, leave it alone. But he wouldn't leave it alone. So I stopped responding because it's like, I'm not trying to debate this. It's not an argument. You're about reparations and that's fine. Do that. Don't involve me because I'm not interested. And because I'm more focused on Africa. You know, he's like, from his perspective, it's like, leave Africa alone and let's focus on this. I'm like, no, no, we're not doing that.
That's part of the game too, to keep us siloed away from looking at the big picture. We have to always come from a big picture perspective, then get down into our fidelity or down into our silos if we can. But we got to always look at the big picture. And the other thing, understand things from the big picture. And someone who can't understand things from the big picture, that's fine. But recognize that they can't provide you the total information you're going to need. They can just give you part, but in terms of what's going on, they're not going to know. They're not going to be helpful. And who knows who he is and who knows what his goal is. So if he's going to be so single-minded and so closed, then I can see why you don't want to talk to the guy. I'm just of the view, I think we can have people who have the energy to go after reparations. Yeah, I'll support them. Go ahead, do your thing. I'll support you. Whatever you need me to do, I'll support you. But I'm with you. Our bounty and our reparations will come when we return back to Africa like we're supposed to. I'm not saying move there, but in terms of doing work and getting the money about the place and just making things better, that will be our reparations. Yes, once we connect that reparation stuff, it'll take care of itself. I don't see it happening personally, but it may, and I support people who do. But a lot of people who are in the reparations movement or black, what they call that? Those a few people out there, Antonio Brown and Yvette Carnell. They were at the front of it. They were talking about reparations. ADOS, whatever. Then Tariq Nasheed got in it for a hot minute. But you gotta look at the motivations of people. And this guy, what's his name? Those Yvette and Antonio, they're very against Africans. They're well, I shouldn't say globally, but they're want to atomize and keep blacks from over here and blacks from over there making a difference, because there's been some problems between blacks from the continent and blacks here. And we're our own tribe, so to speak, American. And American, as far as a country, if you look at Black Americans, we're older than any country in Africa, because those countries didn't come into existence to the 40s and 50s. And they like Nigeria. Nigeria came around in 1960. How long have there been Black Americans? So we are actually older as a group politically than all those African countries, but we should not make a distinction and say they are against us. Yeah, there are some against us, but we can't say and deny our connection to our family over there. And even the people who say they're not Africans, they're melanated, copper colored, okay, fine. But your people came from someplace. Ultimately, if you understand biology and you understand genetics, they had to come from African people. They may have come across the water into Brazil or straight to the US, whatever, 10,000 years ago, but they did come from Africa still. They may not have been in slavery, but they still going through the same thing. And the split hairs about the foolishness is ridiculous. Let's just look at the common problem and how we can move forward spiritually to make this world into a paradise for everybody. Right.
Yeah, if we could just focus on that, on the commonalities, it's not focus on all of the differences, because there are commonalities that all align.
Right, we're humans, and we gotta look at the truth. To me, I think we got to keep truth focused. Truth paramount, truth at the center. No matter where it comes from, no matter who says it, you got to be at truth. Because if you be at truth, you be at the creator. But a lot of people get into ideology. If you're not into truth, I can't talk to you.
Right. Yeah.
Well, brother, we've been at this about an hour. You got anything else you want to say, or you want to close out with anything? Because I think I'm gonna shut it down and try to get this one uploaded too, and probably try to post it tomorrow. But
okay,
that's where we at. Give me your last thoughts if you got any.
My last thoughts is, it's a good day. And I'm African. And I'm not African because I was born in Africa. I'm African because Africa was born in me.
There you go, brother. There you go. I'm with you. And with that, I'll give love and gratitude to you. Love and gratitude to all the people listening to this and into the world. And I thank you, and come back and join us next time for a Kemites View of what's going on. Love and gratitude. Peace.
All right. Love you, bro.
Love you.